Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being with us today. We have got a really cool panel with some really smart people. My name is Elizabeth Hernandez. I'm a reporter at the Denver Post. And today we are talking about internal mobility and what it is, why it's good for your company, and how you do it. All right. So, why don't we start by just having folks introduce themselves here? So, we're going to have everyone say their name, the company, and what you do there. Let's hear about it.
So, my name's Scott David. I am the founder of the Authentic Executive. We help organizations, teams, leaders build the emotional intelligence they need to lead in the world we're all trying to navigate today.
All right, Rebecca Warren. I am out of Phoenix, Arizona, and work for Eightfold AI in customer success. Background in TA, and moved into a tech company that helps folks use AI and plan their entire talent intelligence platform. As I am not from here, I'm looking for volunteers tonight to go shoe shopping with me at Fluvogs and Freebirds. So come hit me up after if you want to go hit some shoe stores, because I do like shoes.
Hi, everyone. My name is Melissa Urives. I work at Trimble. So, we are an industrial technology company. We like to say that we connect the physical and digital worlds. What that means is we bring technology to transportation, construction, agriculture, industries. And so, we like to think of ourselves as we took GPS and then we figured out how to apply that technology to all the different use cases in the world. My role is I just took a new role recently, but my role is I'm vice president of people enablement. So I oversee our total rewards as well as our talent management and our DEI strategies at the company.
Mm. Hello, everyone. I'm Cassie Campman. I am the VP of People Operations for SSA Group. I like to say that we are the company that you may not know, but may have served you food at Denver Zoo, if you've been there, or National Western Stock Show. So we are the people behind the food, the retail and ticketing services at cultural attractions in the United States.
Awesome. My name's David Maffei. I'm the Chief Diversity Officer and Vice President of Human Resources at UC Health. I've been at UC Health for a little over 2 years, and we are the largest health system in the state of Colorado, and actually the only Colorado-based health system that's here.
Excellent. All right. Well, we got some really smart folks here. Let's learn a little bit. Why don't we? So, first question I'm going to give to Scott, followed by Cassie. And then if anyone else wants to add something, go for it. Let's all make it conversational here. So, Scott, how does upskilling and internal mobility help your company's bottom line?
Well, I hate to start with a data dump, but you've kind of set me up here. So, the numbers are pretty clear. Gallup, SHRM, Deloitte have found that internal mobility correlates with a 21% increase in engagement, 23% increase in productivity, and a 40% reduction in turnover. So when you figure it takes 1.5 to 2 times somebody's salary to replace them, those numbers add up pretty quickly. A Gallup survey also found that of people looking for a new job who say they're ready to leave, the number one reason is engagement. And the top 3 subcategories in that bucket are professional development and career advancement opportunities, um, unrealistic expectations, and the work is no longer interesting. So the good news is if you're out there trying to make a case for the ROI on internal mobility, it's a pretty strong case. The question is, what do we need to do to capture that ROI, which is what I'm really excited to talk about with all of you today.
So that's something that with SSA, we live and breathe internal development and career development. Hit my mic. I started with the company 15 years ago as a cashier and have leaned into opportunities through upskilling, reskilling, and growth to be here today on this panel. Beyond that, in 2016, SSA, we had 41 partnerships nationwide, and we wanted to further our growth for our people as well as our company. And we were able to grow to 89 partners as of today. So that bottom line growth is made possible by internal mobility and upskilling.
Anyone else want to add anything on that?
You said it well.
All right. Excellent. Okay, next one, we're going to start with Cassie here on this one. So once you decide you want to commit to upskilling, how do you decide which skills your employees should learn?
So bit of background for SSA. We are family owned and operated still to this day. We've been in operation for 53 years. So I would say for the first 50 years, we took the bottom up approach, which is very organic, leaning into our daily operations and observing skills gaps by observing our operators in the field, letting our people tell us what skills they're interested in and what they are seeking. That still occurs today. As of 2023, we are shifting to also utilize the top-down approach and a more standardized learning and development approach. So building out competency models that will influence the skills-based trainings that we identify. But I point out the organic approach first because I think that that is the sweet spot. You have to have a little bit of both, organic and standardized approach in identifying skills for your organization.
Excellent. Let's go to Rebecca for that one.
Yeah, I think when we're looking at getting the right people in the right places and where there are gaps in the organization, I think the first thing you have to do is figure out what skills are needed. I think we have been in HR very focused on roles and positions and job descriptions, and less focused on the work that actually needs to be accomplished in the first year to, the second year, third year. So when we back it up a little bit and say, what skills are actually needed for this position, and we start putting it focus on the person as opposed to focus on the job, those skills become really apparent. And we tend to start looking at people for what they're doing in their role, whether it's the same job title, the same role, the same department. When we start looking at those skills that people have and then figuring out where as an organization do we need to improve on those skills, that's one of the things that Eightfold has really helped me look at differently is how do we look at the person behind the role and look at those skills that they bring to the table, as opposed to just looking at here's a position description, and if you don't fit specifically in this, then that role is not a fit for you.
Yeah, I really like that too. So I think that I've worked in HR for close to 30 years, and we have focused on credentials and some form of experience, right? And I think as we kind of talk about upskilling folks, cataloging the actual skills is going to be really important. So that really resonates with me. In healthcare, you may be aware that we've got a tremendous shortage of really every role. Nurses, we've got just a shortage of people that want to be at the bedside, and all of the folks who participate in the continuum of care. And one of the challenges that we've had is sort of self-inflicted. We've got job descriptions, to Rebecca's point, that really kind of point to specific credentials, specific years of experience. And we will, instead of saying you need these types of skills, we will say in our job description, you actually need to be an RN, or you need to be a rehab therapist to be able to be qualified for this other role. And we've got to kind of peel that away, and it's going to take a fair amount of work, but it's work that we're committed to. And I think that is really the future of upskilling. It's removing the barriers to people being able to move once they develop skills. Because I think what we'll all find is that there's a bunch of people who are qualified who are hiding in plain sight as we go forward.
Yeah, that's right.
Absolutely. All right, next one. This one's for David first. How does focusing on upskilling help your company's commitment to diversity, equity, inclusion, and hiring more diverse talent?
Yeah, so I alluded to earlier that I heard the chief HR officer at UCLA. She jumped on a call, a bunch of other kind of HR leaders, and she said the war for talent in healthcare is over, which got everyone's attention, right? And then she said, talent won. I'll say that. Is the mic on? I'm not sure if I'm just kidding. So So it was pretty funny for those of you that were there, or those of us that were there. Um, so we've got lots of challenges. Part of so in the state of Colorado, another stat is that we are going to have a 10,000 person RN shortage by 2026. That is basically here, right? And that's just in the state of Colorado. Hiring is not, we're not going to be able to hire our way out of the challenges that we have. So we're looking for ways to be able to kind of grow our internal teams. We've partnered with a company called Guild that provides us with lots of opportunities for our teams to be able to access debt-free education. We knew, if you heard Scott earlier talking about some of the benefits of upskilling, we knew that it would be an increase in engagement, that it would impact our turnover positively, our retention numbers, and we believed that it was going to have an impact on our DEI journey. What we didn't realize is how quickly it would have an impact on that. So what we're seeing are the folks who are participating in tuition assistance, where we're paying $1 for folks. They're not paying and then getting reimbursed. The It's a 2x impact on our Hispanic employees, and it's a 3x impact on African American employees. And regrettably, a lot of those folks that work for us are kind of first generation folks who are working in entry level positions. Because of the kinds of roles that we have available, we've got long form learning, so degrees and those types of things. But the things that we're finding the most effective are short term learning. So where folks are able to devote, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 months to learning and gaining a certification. So you can start as a front desk person earning X amount and then become an MA where there's an immediate 3, 4, sometimes $5 difference that you're able to kind of gain access to within about 7 months, which is really powerful and makes a tremendous difference in the lives of the people that are working for us. And we're seeing that as being a really big part of not only our DEI program, but our ability to kind of meet our mission as we go forward.
It's really interesting. Melissa, do you have anything you'd like to add? Yeah, I absolutely agree with what David said. We are focused on an industry that mostly employs engineering talent. It's combination of mostly software, but mechanical, electrical, engineering as well. And historically, we haven't seen the amount of diversity that we'd like to see in the candidate pools. So I would say when we think about upskilling, it is a bit of a culture shift for our leaders because, right, you have engineering managers who are used to bringing in talent that has a traditional 4-year degree. And so we've had to start a lot of new conversations to say, it's not that that's bad and we're not done with that, but there are other ways to attain those skills. And so, one of the things that we've explored, because we recognize we have a lot of learning to do in this space, is that we have started to work with workforce partners. And so, there are a number of workforce partners that have identified the right curriculum to provide accelerated boot camp style training to individuals that have the right, I would say, competencies that we're looking for, right? Learning agility, problem solving, communication skills. If they have those right competencies, then we feel confident that we can put them through technical training that's very focused on filling a candidate pipeline. An example of that is we identified we didn't have enough QA automation engineers. And so we worked closely with a workforce partner. They helped us create a 20-week curriculum. They actually did the screening for us to identify the candidate pool. And then we partnered with our management team to actually kind of approve the curriculum to make sure that it would be supported and relevant. And it's small, but I would say, the 20 employees who came through that cohort, Trimble ended up hiring about 7 of them, and those 7 are really thriving in terms of their contribution to the company. And we also have dramatically changed their economic mobility because they've now had access to a career field that they did not have access to. So that's just an example where I think every company is going to have to find their method. But for us, because we didn't have the time to build the curriculum ourselves, identifying the right partners in the education and the workforce space has been really successful. Cassie?
I think the lesson that we're learning is focus on removing barriers that you as a company or as an employer may be um, building for yourself. So for us, we're in hospitality, so not engineering, not healthcare. So we have a little bit, we have less barriers to face or that we can focus on removing. We did start with removing the educational requirement for our salaried roles. And in 2015, we formed what we called the DICE task force, diversity, inclusion, community, and equity. It's since evolved into our idea plus belonging division. But from the beginning, our DEI efforts and team were focused on building our upskilling programs that we had as a company. So in 2015, we built a mentorship program that was for the betterment of career development for people in our industry. But we also had a goal in mind. We at that time had a 23% female representation in our general manager position, and we wanted to impact that. So, in utilizing our mentorship program as one vehicle, along with organic, we had an Empower Her ERG that was fostered towards empowering women in leadership. But in leaning on the mentorship program as a vehicle for mentorship for female leaders, we were able to shift that representation to 52% in 2020. Beyond that, because our mentorship program was heavily focused on interpersonal skills, communication, just exposure to leaders, we saw the need for more hard skills and on the job training or on the hip training. So we built our Idea Plus Belonging team, built what is now our apprenticeship program in 2020. And that is a continued vehicle for career development, focusing on our community, of which our hourly workforce is about 75% underrepresented groups. And so we have the talent in our company. We just need to create the vehicles for them to see that opportunity for themselves.
That's great. Excellent. All right. This next question is going to be from Melissa. Melissa, what type of mindset do management and leadership need to have in order for boosting internal mobility to be successful? Yeah, I thought about this morning, and it is a mindset shift. In our own personal journey, I would say we went from a highly decentralized operating model to shifting to a more centralized global company over the last 3 years. Because we came from that decentralized model, I would say you had management teams who they invested in identifying, attracting, and developing their talent, which is good, right? They feel very, you know, um, they feel very invested, I guess, in the talent that they have brought into the company. But they also have tended to be a little bit of hoarding then when it comes to, right? And I'm looking at one of my colleagues here because we've led a lot of conversations about we just need to acknowledge the current state. And the current state, when we started the journey of making career mobility and career growth a strategic focus area for us as part of our people experiences, we had to start by just calling it out, which was saying, hey, we actually have a talent hoarding culture, and it's getting in the way of us being able to retain our best people. And so we need to acknowledge it, and we need to talk openly about it. And so one of the ways that we were able to do that is some of it was coming through our employee engagement surveys. And so we were able to say, here's what we're hearing and seeing from employees. But some of it was getting some of our top leaders from our CEO through our executive level to just call it out and say, hey, we've done this. That's not a bad thing. It means that we care a lot about the people that we've attracted and invested in here. But this is not what's best for Trimble in the long run. So we've got to let go of that. We reinforce the accountability by putting goals. And so every organization in the company has goals around career mobility and career growth. And so we do monitor. And so very quickly, we were able to move to ensuring that almost 25% of our requisitions are filled with internal talent. So that gave us a good baseline. And now we're up to about 27% of our employees have had some type of career growth in the past year. Now, we do believe in the lattice, right? Career growth isn't always upward mobility. It should be promotions, it should be career progression. But sometimes it means a project manager needs to step into a product management role, or an engineer needs to step into a different role and function. And so we've also really tried to increase that. So I would say the biggest thing about mindset is just being willing to acknowledge where you're starting from, to help people understand that it's nothing to be ashamed of. It just means what got us here won't get us there. And so we need to talk openly about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think if we were to talk about how we think about people moving inside of organizations, we think about moving from job to job. What if we thought about moving from work to work, right? Does it have to be a next full-time position? Could it be a project? Could you say, hey, we've got a 1-year project, a 2-year project. Opening up inside of Eightfold, we have a project marketplace, and you can post a project out there. Now, maybe it's not a long-term opportunity, but it's something to get people to try something new. So if you think about how people move internally, it doesn't always have to be from a standard position to a standard position. It's looking at projects, it's looking at gigs, looking at different ways to get people invested. Maybe it's sharing a job. We have a couple of clients who actually have folks that say, I'm going to do, they do 20% or half of their time here and half of their time in another role, and sharing that role. So it's that flexibility of, again, looking at your talent and then allowing them to be able to do the things that they're good at. And one of the things that you said as well, David, is thinking about the things, talking about the nursing shortage. There was a survey that was done by Josh Burson about nurses, and it was talking about why are we losing nurses so fast, and why are folks not coming into it? And the data showed that they were having nurses do the stuff that they're not great at, which is paperwork and trying to track things. And once they figured out, like, hey, we're going to hire someone to take that 20% of work off of their plate and let the nurses do what they're good at doing, the engagement increased,
Absolutely.
the retention increased. So how can you take the work off of the plate that still needs to get done, but how do you put it on the plate of somebody who actually wants to do it, instead of trying to combine it into a role or making people feel like, that's the stuff that I hate, I'm going to leave, as opposed to engaging in the organization to try to make those changes.
Just add, I'm sorry, Scott, go.
Go for it. Go for
You
it.
sure?
Yeah.
All right. We could argue for a second. All right. So, one more kind of thought around the mindset of leaders. So, one of the things that we found, and I don't think it's unique to our organization, but there's biblical, and I promise I won't do anything more biblical than this particular comment. But a prophet has no honor in their own country. And there was this idea that folks who were moving up in our organization, taking advantage of we call it our Ascend program, weren't quite as good as that person that might be coming in from the outside. So we got initially lots of comments like, wow, how many of these people are we going to need to take? It was like, how many of these people are our people? Are you talking about Joe? Joe's been here for 5 years and has worked in entry-level positions, hasn't missed a day, has been doing all of this work. And now he's got an opportunity to grow his career because he wants more for his family, and we're giving him an opportunity to do that. He knows who we are as an organization and believes in our mission. Is that who you're talking about? Right? So over the last couple of years, we have found that mindset has shifted. And the way that we've been able to support shifting it is everybody wants to be a part of a success story. So every time we've had somebody go through, participate in the Ascend program and come out on the other side, we celebrate it, right? We find ways, and our employees, you probably have this as well, love to have pictures taken of themselves. So they're like cheesing on these pictures and stuff. And with really nice write-ups and stories, but it's like, the internal organizational pride that's been generated around that has really dissipated that kind of whole idea of, wow, it's these people. right? Versus they're our people. This is part of our story. Go ahead, Scott.
Well, no, actually, thanks for going first because that was a great setup.
Okay,
Here,
that's
and
great.
you're doing that, and it doesn't happen enough. So when you talk about talent hoarding, it's yes, it may be just because I feel like protective of them because I brought them in. It's also because you have those one or two A players
Yeah,
that help you get the job done.
yeah,
And it is hard being a manager. And so, from a mindset shift, I love that idea. And it's something we try to facilitate. Your primary job is to develop people. If you do that, the numbers will
yeah,
take care of themselves.
yeah.
But too often, senior leadership is just focused on the number. Am I going to get this by Friday?
Yeah.
So I'm really pleased to hear that you're doing that.
I think it's great. I heard somebody say shifting the mindset from hoarding, Melissa, to being a talent shepherd.
Mhm.
So versus being a hoarder to being somebody who kind of shepherds talent for the organization. Which I
Yeah.
think
And
is pretty cool.
the other thing, I like the idea of career progression instead of promotion.
Yeah,
But for a lot of managers, that's a tough sell.
yeah,
So you've got to really equip people with the skills to be in that conversation and to change the equation and to be willing to take the risk of investing in a B player
yeah.
or letting an A player go in order to continue to further their career. And I had actually a friend who was asking for some coaching, and he said, "I keep developing all these players, this great talent, and they keep getting poached." And I said, "Well, stop talking about the numbers you hit and start talking about how you're really good at developing talent for the organization."
Mm,
And it made a huge impact in his career trajectory because you can go do that anywhere.
yeah,
If you have that as a core skill, you can do that anywhere.
it's great.
That's right. Absolutely. All right, David, next one for you
Oh,
first. How do you ensure that training isn't just a performative thing, that it's not just sort of a one-off brown bag lunch that you kind of check the box like we did that?
yeah. So it's fairly easy in healthcare. If we don't have a focus on internal mobility and upskilling our teams, we are going to fail. Our DEI program has really two components to it. The first part is that we say great things about ourselves. The mission at UC Health is that we improve lives. We do that in big ways through learning, healing, and discovery, and in small personal ways through human connection. We want to make sure that everybody in our organization gets to experience us and get to experience their lives being improved. So that's employees, that's our patients, it's family members. The second part of our DEI program is that we want to be able to support UC Health in meeting its mission both today and into the future. So that really the simple answer is if we don't invest in this in ways that are really meaningful, we are going to fail. We're just not going to be able to meet our mission. So that plays on the minds of all of us as we go forward.
Anyone else like to jump in on that?
I love the idea of connection, because that's really what people are looking for. The work world has changed a lot, and I do a lot of work in healthcare. We were talking about that earlier. People really care about what they're doing, but too often they don't give themselves permission and they don't feel they have permission from the organization to really take that extra step to really connect. And a lot of times they don't have the skills and the emotional intelligence to do it. Am I allowed to ask that question? Am I allowed to connect in that way? And, what we find is that when people do, person by person, it does start to change the system. It gives other permission and other people permission. And that can be really, really powerful.
Yeah, I have something to add too. I mean, one thing that, and I would say we're still on the journey to work through this, but we've had to let go, right? COVID forced us all to revisit some of our methods, and so one of the things is we were mostly doing classroom, either virtual in person training, and people love those experiences. But to be honest, we're getting to the point where we're struggling to find the ROI on it because are we doing enough to get people to actually take that new knowledge and actually apply it on a day to day? And we're going through transformation. So we need collaboration and communication and change management, and just really good leaders right now. So it's nothing that I don't think most companies are facing. But what we found is that we probably need to lean into more, we call it experiential learning, right? Nothing new, right? We all know 70-20-10, but I do think we've struggled to get to the 70. So when we take a more skill-based approach, and we didn't plan this, but we are eightfold users, and so
Sitting next to each other.
but we did invest in technology to help those employees find on the job, we call them gigs, on the job experiential learning. So that before I have to go take that next career progression opportunity, I can go take a small gig and I can actually get hands-on experience practicing that skill set. And then I have an actual real applicable situation that I can take into that interview. And so that has been one method that we've really tried to, I guess I would say, democratize skill-based learning, because we can't fill the classes fast enough. We can't produce enough classes, but we can give people opportunities to go do these small project-based, skill-based learning experiences within the company.
I know Elizabeth's asking the questions, but just a quick question. How do you, sorry,
Go
yeah.
for it.
How do you capture that? So when people, yeah, how do you capture that so that you know what people are doing and it's actually counting towards something?
I mean, for us, so we had the homegrown version before we went to some new technology, but we really made managers say, okay, when you write this gig opportunity up, right, and it's helping a manager. Maybe a manager can't get approval for another headcount,
Yep.
but they can absolutely, everyone's fully empowered to create a gig opportunity. So the managers are expected to write the gig, not like a job description, but a skill-based learning opportunity, and what's the actual output that that employee is going to help you achieve. So if you think about it, the employee is then applying for this opportunity to practice this skill set, and they're going to have a really tangible output. So honestly, early on, it was spreadsheets. It wasn't anything super sophisticated. We do have the technology now, and so we can actually track the skill-based growth that's coming through the gigs.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, each person has their own career hub. They have their own profile, and then they can put the skills that they've learned on the job, the skills that they've already bring to the table, and the things that they're working on outside the organization to maintain their own profile.
Fantastic.
All right. Well, this one's up for grabs. So anyone who wants to answer, go for it. But I can imagine a manager thinking like, this all sounds great, but we just don't have time to do this. And especially right now when so many industries are experiencing burnout and worried about too much on employee plates, why is this important and how do you make time to do this?
I'll jump in.
Right.
I think tech has come up. I think for us at SSA, we focus on reducing friction. So 75% of our company to 85% of our company are operators. They are at our locations working at serving food or selling a plushie. So we have peak times in our season as well as our day. So we try to meet them at downtimes and focus on down season for any training that is going to be kind of a mandatory learning opportunity. But beyond that, leaning into tech to give accessibility to skills-based learning is a necessity. You or we all have people in our organization that are eager for growth, eager for learning. Make sure that they have access to that through something like Eightfold, not a partner, but maybe in the future.
Yeah.
I can tack onto that too. And I think some of it comes from what everybody has said here. We have to also work on managers changing their mindset, right? Managers shouldn't be project managers. They should be people developers and enablers and allowing folks to do what they do best. In TA, I had always said to managers, if you are asking me to find you 100% of what you're looking for, guess what? You want a consultant because you're not going to pour into that person. If they come in with everything, you've allowed someone else to train them and to come in, they say, we need them to hit the ground running. What does that mean? because you have a culture, you have different ways that you do things. And so you've taken someone else's training and now you're trying to retrofit it into your organization. You should want to, as a manager, be able to pour into that person, give them something to be able to advance to, but also learn from them as well. So hiring someone who has less, but then also helping them move internally. So as managers, when you said, managers, that's their job, they need to lean into that. And to me, it's a red flag if a manager says, I don't have time to train. Like, that's absolutely what you should be doing. And if you don't have time, needs to come off of your plate to allow you to invest in your people and make sure they have the skills to be successful? That's exactly what a manager should be doing, right? All of their people should be moving all the time because you've trained them, developed them, and you haven't put them in a box to be hoarded, right? You've given them extra things. You should be hiring people smarter than you so that they can continue to move on in the organization.
But what I find is that most managers were really good as a frontline employee. They got promoted to management, and
They don't know how to do it.
well, they probably have the raw skills. They've got interpersonal skills, they've got problem solving
Yeah.
skills, but we can tell them that your job is to develop people and the numbers will take care of themselves. Everyone's got their own internal wiring. There's a lot of fear about hitting the number and
That's
will my
true.
boss really do it? And I thought I was supposed to show up this way as a manager. It's not okay to say, I don't know. It's not okay to let somebody struggle. I want to help them. So I'll take this back. So to me, a big piece of it is equipping managers with the emotional intelligence, because to your question, I don't have time for this and everybody's burnt out. That's where burnout starts to dissipate, is when you give people the tools to be more effective. And I find 98% of managers really want to develop people. And if you give them the tools and a push and hold them accountable, they realize, oh, this does work. But it's a leap of faith.
That's a great call.
Yeah. It's
You
a
need
leap of faith.
transparency.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it's the right question
Mm,
because mobility, yeah. So our managers, our leaders have a part in that, but it's an organizational imperative,
the system.
right? So if we keep giving mixed signals about, you need to make sure that these things are done on time, yeah, there's not going to be time. But if the organization says that part of your job, part of your role, part of success, when we sit down at the end of the year and we talk to you about, kind of, some of the things you've hit, some of the things that didn't work out so well, part of that is going to be how well you did and supported people in growing. That changes everything. But if we leave it to the managers, they're going to do what they know.
Mm,
And it doesn't mean that they're short-sighted. It means that those are the things that the organization has asked them to do.
mhm.
So I think the question needs to be adjusted a little bit because it's got to be an organizational imperative. And if you have an organization that says that we don't have time for it, then we don't,
Exactly. Yeah.
right? And we will likely fail. But I don't think it falls solely at the feet of that, line manager.
Yeah.
That's true. It has to
Good
be
point.
felt.
All right, also up for grabs here. Does anyone have an aha moment of when you realize your upskilling efforts were really working for your company?
Yeah, I got a couple. One was we started with our partnership with Guild. It happened in February of 22. And we sent out an email and let folks know that you could go in and create a profile. And we had right off the bat, I think the number was like 3,000 employees, 2,300 to 2,500 employees go out and complete a profile within the first month. Like, wow. And then there was this backlog of folks who wanted to participate in training. And like I said earlier, we had this expectation that it was going to improve engagement, retention, and then have an impact on DEI. And we saw all of those things right away. It wasn't like we had to kind of sit down with folks and explain, if you do this, it was like right away. So that was like the big aha that there was this pent up desire for a lot of our folks to really grow their careers. That happened almost instantaneously.
I'll share one story. This is more an individual personal story. So we have a woman who works with us. Her name is Preeti. She was an engineering leader based in our office in Chennai, India. And she wanted so badly to be part of a specific division within our company. And she just kept feeling like, every door kept getting closed because she just didn't have exactly the skills and experience. So we decided to go a different route. So we set up a gig for her. And that gig was very intentional in helping her address some of the skills that she had received feedback were a gap for her being considered for a role in that particular division of our company. She not only did the gig, but she then was offered an opportunity to move here to Colorado. So she has moved, and now she's moved into being one of our top leaders in that division within a matter of like 2 years. And so we tell her story, and it's one, but there are other stories like that where we said, hey, we found a different way to address the skill set gap. She did it through real project-based learning. And what I think is the best part is that management team is much more open to using gigs to address the skill gap in the future. So now it's created this really powerful narrative that if you're willing to invest the time and think differently about this, it's pretty impactful, not only the impact it had on the team, but the impact it had on this person's life, and so that's just an example of the human connection and in this work can have on people. It's a great story.
Great.
How cool. Well, I think we're out of time.
We are out of
That's a
time.
good
All right.
one.
Well, this was so enlightening. Thank you all so much for your expertise here. Learned a lot. All right. Thank you all. Have a good
Thanks.
day.